John Buono is spelled B as in boy, U as in uniform, O as in Oscar, N as in November, O as in Oscar. I was active duty military at the time. I was in the Air Force. I was military police, which we called security forces, was what we were called by the Air Force. But I was deployed in Saudi Arabia. I was right in the middle of Riyadh. When 9/11 actually happened, we were about, I think we were 6 hours ahead of New York and 7 hours ahead of Alabama. We were getting ready to basically start a night shift at work. So we were in the process of getting our uniforms ready and everything like that. So basically over there we had Armed Forces Network. So we had like maybe 2 or 3 TV stations that were part of the Armed Forces Network, and one of them happened to be CNN. And that's what most of us watch, just to keep up with current news and events and such like that. We were watching CNN, and my roommate at the time told me, hey, plane hit the World Trade Center. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of weird. Airplanes typically avoid skyscrapers most of the time, but I was like, okay, well, that's kind of weird, but, well, that's really bad, I hope everybody makes it out okay. Didn't think too much of it, but we kept CNN on, and, they were talking about everything that was going on. And next thing you know, right on live TV, of course, the second plane hits. And kind of in our line of work there, everybody pretty much figured out that this was not like something, this wasn't a coincidence. And in our line of work, you go, oh, well, geez, that's something bad's going on. You know that pretty quick. Over in Saudi Arabia, we were in a little bit of a different state. We deployed over there maybe 2 weeks before 9/11. It was not a special deployment. It was a routine planned deployment, and we were actually scheduled to come home early. And that ended up not happening because of 9/11. But when all this happened, we were already in a heightened state of alert over there for terrorism acts, because you're in a foreign country, and especially in the Middle East, a lot of acts of terrorism against Americans happen over there. So we were already heightened state of alert. So when all this happened, all the stateside bases, they all went to like from minimum security to basically locking everything down. So ours stepping up from heightened state of security up one step really didn't mean that much to us. Basically, I was assigned to a guard tower that night, and normally we had one person in them, but because of the heightened security, we ended up having 2 that night. We were in the process of turning our base over to an Army military police, because it was going to become an Army base, and we were going to go home early, was what the original plan was before 9/11. So the guy that ended up in the tower with me that night was an Army guy, and we were in the tower, and this tower probably looked like very similar to a tower, like there's a wall that was the edge of the base. And then outside the wall, it looked very similar to, I would say, downtown Montgomery. When you go down I-85, and right when you go through the downtown area, there's basically a divided highway with a concrete barrier in the middle and traffic going in both directions. So we're sitting there, and we're listening to the news, because we had the Armed Forces Radio Network on, and again, they only had a couple stations. So we're listening to a news station on this particular evening, because we're wanting to keep up with everything that's going on back home. And we're listening to all the reports, how many people died and the towers collapsing and all that. In the meantime, we're guarding the perimeter of this base and watching the traffic go by on this highway. And keep in mind that although the Saudi Arabians are allies of ours, they didn't like us. They really didn't like us being there, because they're very religious, very conservative, and they felt that our American culture was just offensive to them. So when 9/11 happened and all this stuff was going on, we sat there in this tower the entire night and watched people driving by, and they were like honking at us, and they were laughing, they were pointing at us, some of them were flipping us the bird. These people were they were happy that this had happened to us. And I can't describe the feeling from that night. It was anger, but it's a type of anger that I can't really put words to, and I've never felt that way before, and I hope I never feel that way again. I don't think I will, but there was just an anger at seeing all these people that were laughing at us, that thousands of innocent Americans had just died. So when all this happened, they were, the whole entire evening, like this was not just for a couple hours, this was the entire night. They were just doing this. This one car, one funny part of the story, and I guess you could call this karma. This one car on the other side of the highway was in the left lane, and he slowed down, and this guy leans really far out his window. And he's leaning and he's pointing at us in Arabic, and he's obviously laughing. Can't tell what he's saying because he's talking in Arabic. We didn't know any Arabic, so I have no idea what he was saying. But he's pointing at us, and he's laughing and everything like that. And this car comes flying up behind him, like apparently didn't realize that he had slowed down so much, and just hit him really hard in the back end. Bam! And it was kind of funny at the time. I mean, we laughed at it. I mean, it wasn't funny in the way that, I don't know if the guy was hurt or not, but it was outside of our wall, so it was nothing that we had to do anything with and nothing that had anything to do with us. So we just kind of laughed at it because they said, hey, that's karma. That's what you get for laughing that, a whole bunch of Americans just died today.